Various media outlets, including ABC News and CNN, were able to identify 5 out of the 6 co-conspirators that were mentioned in the criminal indictment of Donald Trump. Now, that indictment had to do with Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. And while the co-conspirators were unnamed and unindicted in this indictment, we do have some details about who they are, and some of our suspicions have been confirmed. So co-conspirator number 1 is apparently Rudy Giuliani, which is unsurprising to me. So the indictment describes this conspirator as an attorney who was willing to spread knowingly false claims and pursue strategies that the defendant's 2020 re-election campaign attorneys would not. And specifically, the indictment says it was Trump and this particular co-conspirator who called Speaker of the House Rusty Bowers to ask him to use the legislature to circumvent the process regarding fake electors. In the conversation, this conspirator, Giuliani, said something to the effect of, "We don't have the evidence, but we have lots of theories." Bowers has publicly recounted this conversation in his testimony to the House's January 6th committee and named Rudy Giuliani as the individual who said this. So that's the reason why the press, through investigating this, has determined that co-conspirator 1 is in fact Rudy Giuliani. Now, the second co-conspirator is John Eastman, another one of these wacky Trump campaign lawyers who wanted to overturn the election, or at least assist Trump in overturning the election with a scheme. Now, the indictment describes this conspirator as an attorney who devised and attempted to implement a strategy to leverage the vice president's ceremonial role overseeing the certification proceeding to obstruct the certification of the presidential election. So in one specific instance of the indictment, it alleges that Trump and this co-conspirator called the chairwoman of the RNC to ensure that the plan was in motion, and that during the call, this co-conspirator told her that it was important for the RNC to help the defendant's campaign gather elections in targeted states, and falsely represented to her that such electors' votes would be used only if ongoing litigation in one of the states changed the results of the defendant in the defendant's favor. Okay, so in her testimony before the January 6th committee investigating January 6th, RNC chairwoman Ronna McDaniel made it clear that the person, the co-conspirator, who's listed here, was John Eastman. And so he turned the call over. So she had said during her testimony, Trump had called her and he turned the call over to Mr. Eastman, who then proceeded to talk about the importance of helping the campaign gather these contingent electors in case any of the legal challenges that were ongoing changed the results of any states. The third co-conspirator, do I really need to tell you? Sidney Powell. So the indictment describes this co-conspirator as an attorney whose unfounded claims of election fraud the defendant privately acknowledged to others sounded crazy. It continues, nonetheless, the defendant embraced and publicly amplified co-conspirator 3's disinformation, the indictment continues. And according to the January 6th committee's final report, Hope Hicks testified that Trump and Powell spoke by phone after a press conference during which she repeated the same claims of foreign interference in the election she had made at the press conference. And during that call, according to the report, Trump muted his speakerphone and laughed at Powell and told people in the room, "This does sound crazy, doesn't it?" It didn't stop him from using her claims to bolster his allegation that the election was stolen from him and that there was widespread voter fraud. Nonetheless, co-conspirator number 4 is Jeffrey Clark. The indictment describes this co-conspirator as a Justice Department official who worked on civil matters and who, with the defendant, attempted to use the Justice Department to open sham election crime investigations and influence state legislatures with knowingly false claims of election fraud. And finally, the 5th co-conspirator that was named, well, was not named, but reporters have been able to name him by gathering all the details and looking at the clues that were listed in the indictment, is Kenneth Chesebro. So the indictment describes this co-conspirator as an attorney who assisted in devising and attempting to implement a plan to submit fraudulent slates of presidential electors to obstruct the certification proceeding. The final thing I'll say about this is it's very clear that the investigation done by the January 6th Select Committee was really important and was utilized in this indictment, right? So all of the evidence that was unearthed from that committee's investigation has led to this indictment. So in December of last year, that committee did refer criminal charge recommendations to the DOJ, and that's how we ended up where we are today, right? So all of that testimony very clearly was used. And it's unclear whether these individuals, these co-conspirators, will be indicted in the future. If I had to bet my money on it, they are likely to be indicted. It is also possible that Trump could face additional counts in this case. We'll see how that plays out. But for now, that's what we know of the 5 out of 6 co-conspirators. The 6th co-conspirator we are still unable to identify, but I think it's important for you all to know about all the different players involved. It is unsurprising to me that Trump's weird campaign lawyers were involved in this, including I think the craziest part about this is that you have a Justice Department official implicated here as well, and that's Jeffrey Clark. So there you have it. Those are the co-conspirators. Obviously, we'll fill you all in on more regarding this story. Trump is expected to be arraigned tomorrow, so I'm sure there will be some reporting on that as well.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.